content thinking through, conjuring images of government as reinvented and entrepreneurial. Then the UN advanced the concept of governance as a yardstick of government performance. Accountability, transparency, participation. And finally, governance was added. In the new millennium, there was an increasingly harsh and hostile environment. And now there are 7 billion people inhabiting what is referred to as a fragile society. It's also called a disastrous 21st century. Organizationally, financially, and environmentally. For example, in 2011 alone, floods, storms, earthquakes, a tsunami displaced 14.9 million people, 89% of which were in Asia. The 10th largest disasters occurred in multiple events in China, the Philippines, Sri Lanka, and Japan, as reported by the Norwegian Refugee Council only last week. The most feared scenarios are natural cataclysms, terrorist attacks, and pandemic. Thus, I'd like just to cite that NCPAC, as early as the 1990s, contributed to disaster management literature in the traditional mode. Traditional because they looked at assessments of disaster response during the Orlog flash flood, the 1990 earthquake, and the Mountain Tubo eruption. The difference in approach now is that don't look at the response and the rehabilitation phases only, but look at the preparatory stage. So now, looking forward, NCPAC has announced a special progress course in climate change adaptations and disaster risk management, which will be offered in the first semester of 2013 and 2014, with the introduction of a study on spatial information management, or SIM. So I would think that this is a welcome venture into disaster risk reduction and search for a resilient state, a state that is capable of anticipating and rebounding from the impact of cataclysmic events. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nestor Pilar. Our next speaker needs no introduction, but let me just quickly say that he is founding president of Kalayaan College, which is a private college founded by UP professors committed to quality higher education. He is also former president of the University of the Philippines system. Currently, he is professor emeritus of political science and public administration at the University of the Philippines, where he served, as I mentioned, as the 16th president in 1987 to 1993. To talk about from IPA to NCPAC, looking back, being the youngest, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dr. Jose V. Abuelo.
Mayor Ramos, Senator Villanes, Chancellor Isabella, Dean Ednaco, Dean Tapares, Dr. Pilar, Dean Villanes. Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. May punta kailangan tanan. I am introduced as belonging to the first generation. In fact, I am the only survivor of the first batch of faculty of the NCPAC. the youngest to be very critical as well as constructive. We have had a very positive, truthful report on the evolution and achievements of the college. But let me start by saying that, of course, we have to be guided by the vision for the nation. And our vision is stated in the preamble of our 87th Constitution to build a just and humane society and a democracy under the rule of law and a regime of truth, justice, freedom, love, equality, and peace. That is the vision. Now, what is the condition of our nation state? To the rapidly rising population of some 95 million in our homeland alone, we suffer from massive poverty, gross inequality, and continuing unemployment, injustice, rebellion, insecurity, homelessness, inadequate public services, corruption, lawlessness, environmental degradation, and so on. We are still a developing country trying not so hard to modernize and develop. What is the condition of our state? Gunnar Myrdal's description fits us. We are a soft state with signs of a failing state, still a weak democracy. 26 years after the Cancer Revolt and 25 years after the Constitution, our democracy is still weak and shallow and has not been consolidated. This means that our democracy if it continues not to deliver to our people what they expect of it, we might again succumb to authoritarian rule as we did in 1972. How about our political structure? We are still ruled by a political oligarchy of many family dynasties who dominate our very costly elections and our government institutions. These leaders, not all of them, but many of them exploit our dysfunctional political and governmental institutions. They are supported by a large pool of poor, insecure, and unempowered citizens, but they control through patronage. Having a large stake in our traditional political system, many of our leaders want to maintain the status quo, so they oppose fundamental reforms through charter chains. Am I saying we are hopeless? Of course not. We are far from that. But I'm just giving you a truthful and critical assessment, as I promised. And this is the challenge. What I have said about the state of the nation is a challenge, as well as the context of our vision and mission in its impact and all the schools of public administration and government. What is the bright side? Fortunately, we have some concerned and transforming leaders and civil society organizations, religious organizations, social entrepreneurs, activist students, and serious advocates of institutional reform. And we have students and teachers represented by you. How can INSIPAC strengthen its role and mission in public administration and government? You know, we have a vision statement, and I'm surprised to see our statement of the vision. It mixes the vision for the country or the public service with the vision of the college. And for the college itself, this is what our vision says. The college seeks to build and maintain a highly qualified faculty and staff and a well-equipped, proactive organization. We can be more inspiring and challenging than that. Compare this vision of INSIPAC with the vision of the UP Department of Political Science. And I quote, our vision is to be a national center of excellence for advanced studies in politics and public policy, committed to addressing the challenges facing the country and the global community. Now, fortunately, our mission in INSIPAC is very well stated, and it is being pursued by our various centers. What should INSIPAC and the UK Department of Political Science do, since they are both concerned with politics, public policy, and governance. For 60 years, the INSIPAC and the Department of Political Science have been separated with very little interaction and cooperation to their mutual disadvantages. Since we share common values and goals for the nation's political, governmental, and administrative development, I strongly believe that the two institutions should get together and see how they can collaborate for their own good and the nation's benefit. Why has the INSIPAC not published a general textbook in Philippine public administration as a contribution to the teaching and learning of this subject nationwide? We published the first textbook in 1957, so long ago. And there is greater need for it because we have so many schools of public administration and so many more students of public administration. It is unfortunate that the faculty does not want to invest the time and effort that the writing of the textbook requires. The faculty must synthesize the great knowledge that we already have to write a good textbook. What should INSIPAC do to improve the quality and timely publication of the Philippine Journal of Public Administration? Here again, this is a challenge. I know it's easy to criticize, but difficult to undo this. But that is the challenge. What else should the INSIPAC do to help improve the quality of our politics, policy, and governance? Well, we should continue to do what we are doing very well. But I believe that the INSIPAC should do more timely and critical assessments or evaluation studies of the following: the President and Presidency. We should have a critical study of that every other year. Congress, the formulation of the national budget and the General Appropriations Act, the portfolio. No serious study has been done by the college. It is very important. BDA, agency and corporate auditing, our constitutional commissions, of course, all of them, the central bank, the armed forces of the Philippines, the Philippine National Police, the print and broadcast media as institutions of good governance. Now, we cannot do this without the cooperation of the various departments and colleges of the university, but we must do this. How about fundamental institutional reforms through constitutional change? Yes, the university faculty and the students should get more vigorously involved in supporting the leaders and groups that propose these changes. Without these reforms, we will continue to suffer from the sorry state of our social, economic, and political underdevelopment and malaise. Finally, what role should INSIPAC assume for the university? As an institution specializing in the study and advocacy of good leadership and good governance, the INSIPAC should be a working model of these ideals in the university. So we should ask ourselves, we in INSIPAC, are we a working model of democratic and collegial academic leadership and governance today? This is a challenge.